Welcome, everybody, to the newest episode of the Dragoncast. My name is Brian Daniels. I'm here with my podcast partner in crime, Victor Salazar. And Victor, today we have a very special guest with us. We have Miz Rivka. And Miz Rivka Schaffner, thank you so much for joining us here on the Dragoncast. And Rivka, how are you doing today? How are you doing this morning?
I slept really well. I weed whacked all yesterday's because, you know, there was some fresh air.
Yeah.
Yeah?
And today is the beginning of the new year for, for the Jewish New Year. So it's a pretty good year.
Right on. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And when I was a little kid, I used to be the shofar player to bring in the new year. So
oh, nice.
So I actually have my original shofar here.
That's cool.
That is amazing. So Rivka, so for those who don't know who Ms. Rivka is, she I found you on this group on Facebook called Weird Secondhand Finds. And it's a group that my wife actually told me about. And so she invited me, and I joined it, and I saw you in a picture wearing this Mario suit, which is incredible. And I know you had went with a friend of yours to a thrift shop and you saw that suit. And then you had shared with everybody that you actually worked on the Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3 animated show. Right?
That was the gist of it, yes.
Yeah. And
do you want
the memories. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this jacket has made me aware that there's so many amazing people out there, because after that post happened, there was like 100,000 likes and 600 people like that I don't know wanted to be my Facebook friend. I'm like, wait a minute, are they my student? And then all of a sudden I realized, all these messages, can you draw me Mario? All these comments. I couldn't believe it. But it all started that, I just came down to Southern California to work on, to deliver some painting. And I stayed at my friend's house, Marlene, and we always go thrift shopping. That's her thing. Mm-hmm. So
that's cool.
Yeah. And in Ventura. So, she was really hungry, and she goes, I want to take you to this place. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. So I go in, and it's the most amazing thrift shop I've ever been in. And I'm looking around, and she's like, well, we got to get out of here. I want to go and eat. And then I said, okay. And I just put the stuff on the rack. I didn't even put it away. And I turned around, and there it was, this 3-piece suit. And before I had it, I said, oh my God. And I went to grab it. And before I had a chance to grab it, another hand was on the hanger. I'm like, oh no, this one's mine. And then it was my friend. She goes, I had to grab it before somebody else did, because you have to have this suit. It's so perfect. So that's kind of how I bought the, she goes, well, you should go try it on. I'm like, I don't need to try it on. I'm going to frame it and put it in my house. And then she
that's
says,
amazing.
oh,
it's amazing.
Yeah, and it fits me really good, and I love wearing it everywhere. So wherever I go, this is like my new dress wear.
And it's funny that you find it at a thrift store of all places, right?
Yeah, somebody probably bought this to wear to a wedding or something, because in the jacket pocket or wherever, it probably was. There was a jacket pocket, and it was filled.
Those places are full of gold mine.
Yeah, it was filled with items. It was filled with this piece of paper, but I had 20, 30 of them in here. And I'm like, what's in the pocket? And I thought it was money, and it was all these things. So it was sort of like somebody must have worn it as a advertising thing and then here it is on me. And here you are watching me in my studio with one of my favorite shows that I ever worked on, because my boss was just totally cool.
That's amazing. You've helped build the childhood memories of millions. So it does not surprise me one bit that once people notice or realize you helped create that Super Mario image, back in Super Mario 3, or I should say Super Mario Brothers, the animated show, people just said, you got to do this for me. Oh my God, you've always been there for me. I was up early every Saturday morning to make sure I caught that show, because that's exactly what Mario does. It brings so many people together, and they always want to give thanks to those that brought Mario to their lives. It's amazing. It's amazing, Rivka.
Oh, it's like weird because like when I was a kid, you know, I was working on that in like 87 or something like that. And I mean, the show came, we were working in 86 or 87, I can't remember. And then, and it was just another show. I had just gotten off one show and I was moving on to the next show because they move you around on shows to shows. And I'm like, what's this Mario thing? And they said, you're going to be perfect for the show. You like bright colors. And then nobody really knew what Super Mario Brothers was because we were just the artists. And my boss, he's just a famous photographer, and he is also a gamer. So he had to, we sat in his office, all the crew, and he would say, okay, get out your drawing pads, because, you know, there was no cameras like, you know, cell phones. Nobody thought about taking a picture of it and then bringing it to the place and making it film and then making it into. So we were there with our keys and our drawing pads, and whatever level he was at, we were able to get to that character, that background. And the thing with Mario is that the game didn't come with any like pamphlets. And that was kind of hard for us because we didn't have anything to go by. So we had to actually play the game. So for the entire time that we were making that show, John would be playing the game. And then he'd say, I'm at level 17, everybody get in here. So, you know, we'd all run in there and we would like be sitting there, you know, trying, and, you know, I was with my color keys trying to get the right colors. And it was like the craziest show I ever worked on because we would sit around most of the time and then we would get to work, you know. And then they'd say, the show was due yesterday. I'm like, wait a minute, he hasn't even gotten to the right level. We don't know what it looks like.
And it's so colorful. Mario 3, that's Mario. It's just so colorful. There's so many bright colors. There's so many different shapes. I mean, all that stuff is just, you have to experience it to know exactly how to convey that. So it's great that that's the type of experience you guys have to have have those creative juices moving, you know, to make it happen. Because again, childhood memories, man. Sitting there just watching that, it's like, this is amazing. It's like the games. It's good. It was fun. Fun is what it is now.
Yeah, and you know, like when people were messaging me or all those comments that were going on the Facebook thing, I never realized how important Super Mario Brothers was to people. I really didn't know because, you know, I'm older, I'm 60. So, you know, I just had it as a job, and I never, you know, whenever I see Mario, I'm like, hey, my show. I mean, whenever I see anything in the store. And you know, I never really think that it's like amazing thing, you know. And so I'm just really excited that you guys are doing this interesting way of bringing an education to the world without having to pay NBC or CBS or whatever, all those big broadcast places. I love this underground kind of movement of podcasting.
Absolutely. That's you know, that's what we do here at you know, on the Dragoncast. We've been around for quite a few years now, and it's actually great, Rivka, that we're having you on the show today because it's actually the 35th anniversary. Back on September the 13th is the 35th anniversary of Mario.
Oh my God!
So that's actually pretty awesome to have you on the show.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
And that's so cool. That's so cool because that's my birthday, September 13th.
Well, there you go. It just makes sense. See,
really? The stars are aligning.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
There you go.
2020
When the universe
rocks.
calls, man, it just happens.
That's right. So of course I've got, you know, we've got a lot of questions to ask you here. That's why we brought you on the show. I want to start off. You told me that you became an artist at the age of 4. That's impressive. So, how did you get, you know, at 4 years old? What was it about wanting to be an artist at such a young age? Like, how did you get involved in that? How did you get so drawn into doing something like that?
Well, let's see. My parents always would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And since art was a huge part of my life, I mean, my dad was an art collector, and all of my aunts and uncles were artists. And, you know, my aunt was she was the first woman to show a one-woman show at the Houston Museum of Art. And so that was, whenever I would go to Houston, I'd say, Aunt Betty, draw me something. And then she'd get a paper plate and she'd draw these Sharpie lines and hand me markers and I would, you know, color. And so I've been around a lot of art. So I guess also I was really artistic. And so when I was 4 years old, I met my first art teacher, Eva Roberts, and she was this old Jewish Russian lady that was just outrageous dresser, like bohemian, you know, totally 60s with thousands of skirts and things. And she was totally avant-garde, crazy woman. And she started teaching me when I was 4. So that was my first professional lesson. And by the time I was 6, I was teaching art to real students in a real classroom. My first grade teacher just said, "You're so much better. You're so much better than me." And so he set me up a little table in the back of the room. I'm like, "Okay, you two come over and we're going to get you started." And so that's when I started really teaching professionally.
That's so impressive.
That's crazy, right?
At such a young age.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad that my parents, like, you know, always put, you know, pushed me into the direction that I needed to go to be whatever I was going to be.
Yeah, it's always good.
But my dad always used to say,
I think that's
my dad used to say,
that's always important. I always thought.
He'd always
I'm
say,
sorry. Go ahead, Rivka. Go ahead.
Okay. Zoom is hard because there's that rebound thing. But my dad used to say, I know you want to be an artist, but you know, you have to also think about the fact that you need to make money. So in case you fail, you should be a teacher. And I'm like, you don't even believe in me. You know, I cannot believe my own dad. So I did get my teaching credentials eventually. It took me a while, but I got them. But I was teaching at such a young age that when the district hired me, like full-time teacher, I was called an artist in residence, and I was like 15 years old, and I got, became artist in residence at that age at my school district back in Thousand Oaks.
Wow. 15-year-old teacher with credentials. That's amazing. That's great work.
Yeah, it was.
That is super impressive, Rivka, that you at such a young age, at 15, and being able to have those credentials to teach other people. Yeah. And then it's always good too when you have parents that encourage you to do your own thing and find your own way, but have that support from them as well. It's always parents being involved with their children is absolutely important. It's great that you had that direction from that and guidance from them, and something that it seems like your father already had some very extensive knowledge in being an art collector as well, right? So that's always definitely a great thing. It said you also told me that you did some hand painted T-shirts too.
Oh yeah!
Tell us about that.
Let's know about this.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
That was like an amazing part of my life. I made so much money doing that. I bought like 3 houses and just kept whatever.
Wow.
I had to figure out how to shelter my money. My mom says you got to buy a house.
Yeah.
So,
Brian, we're in the wrong business, man. We're in the wrong business. You got to get into the T-shirt business.
Yeah, but remember.
So go ahead. So how did that start, Rivka? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see, because since I was a small kid, since I was a young kid, I was always composing. So I would always have, my compositions. Mm-hmm. And then when I think I was like 15, I was in this class at high school. We had like a whole huge art program. And we made block prints. And instead of printing it on paper like everyone else, I thought, I'm going to print it on material and I'm going to make something out of it. So I started she goes, well, I don't know if you can be printing on material, but then she found some ink that prints on material. So, I started printing on material. And then when I turned 17, I met this woman named Nadine Mitchell, and she lives in Santa Barbara, or she does the Santa Barbara show. But before she was I was a freshman and she was a senior getting out of college. And she took me under her wing and she says, hey, I'm leaving this area. I paint on T-shirts for a living. No one does it. I want to teach you the secret, and then you can take my place. And I'm like, what? Okay. So she told me, gave me her secrets, and then I just started doing my designs. And then I would, at my college campus, you know, you have these art shows in the quad. So I would like pay my $5 and do the show. And like, before I knew it, like all the work was gone because I was doing my fine art on the t-shirts. And so then it got to the point where, you know, I was doing front and back because I thought I got to make this worth it. So then, you know, I was selling them for $15. And then the next thing I know, people said, I really like the front, but I don't really like the back. And so I started just painting the front for $15. And then every time I do another show, I just raise it $2 more. And so my shirts were going like for $65 back in the 80s, or early 80s in, you know, like down in Beverly Hills, you know, because I was doing all those Beverly Hills shows. Yeah. And and then I got picked up by 3 shops that wanted to have my shirts in them, and then they wanted my clocks and all my artwork. So I was showing my work in Honolulu at Pomegranates in the Sun, and I was showing in Pasadena, and I was showing in not Beverly Hills, Westwood, and so near UCLA. And so it just like, I couldn't paint fast enough. And then my friends would say, you should silk screen. I'm like, are you crazy? No way. These are art. I don't want to, you know, bring my standards down. But, you know, Andy Warhol was silk screening at that, you know, at that level. So finally my friend made me a silk screen machine and silk screened my black lines. And I didn't really like doing it that way, but the black was certainly much better than a Sharpie pen, because Sharpies would, you know, wash away. So anyways, my shirts are collector's items, and people always show me shirts that they got, and you know, it's always dated, so like 81, what a treasure. And then people found out about me at, like David Walper's wife. I don't know if you know who he is because you guys are really young, but he was a famous producer down in Beverly Hills. Anyways, he produced the '84 Olympics down in LA and got all those murals painted on the freeway and things like that. So anyways, his wife was one of my collectors from that store, and then she called me up and says, hey, you know, I want you to do these shirts for my husband, it's his birthday. So then she says, just come over to my house. So it was in Brentwood. So I drive up, and there's all these cop cars in front. I'm like, where am I going? You know, I'm just this kid. I mean, seriously, I was a super kid. And then I drove up, and then I came to this house that was like in my wildest dreams. I never thought I could be in a place like this. They collected artwork of my favorite artists, like Henri Moore, the famous sculptor, was like and then James Rickey and Pablo Picasso, and you know, just all these famous artists that, you know, you only see in a book. And I'm standing right by them, and then she goes, I want you to paint my husband's Picasso collection. I'm like, what? And so then, you know, so I got to paint all these shirts for his birthday. And then when the Olympics came around later on, I painted his Olympic shirts. Every day he'd wear a different shirt of my work for each of the, you know, 14 days. And so, and then this one guy got in touch with me, and he's a world traveler, and he travels everywhere. And so he wherever he would go, he would have me, he would paint up like, I would paint up like 50 shirts for wherever he was going. Like if he was going to Bora Bora, I would do like a scene underwater. Or if he was going to the North Pole, he went to the South Pole, I got to paint the Amundsen Scott Station. And so he would take these shirts in his suitcase, and then wherever he went, he would give people Rivka t-shirts. So my shirts have been on every continent, even Antarctica.
Wow.
And so from there, that's how, because of my t-shirt business, you know, I won lots of awards, and I got into the museum this place called Mota Adam, which is the museum on Main Street in Santa Monica. It was the very first t-shirt museum, and I was the very first star. And then some other people came in. But so I got to be in the first ever t-shirt museum, and I never really I just never really thought much of it. But, you know, as I look at my past life, I was lucky to be young and excited and just ready to do things during the time when women could break into the art world, because it was a male-dominated world. And let me tell you, working with DIC at the animation company, there were 600 employees, and
Right.
7 of us were female.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
yeah, that's
I'll go.
that's impressive about your your t-shirt. I mean, having those shirts be all over the world like that. I can't imagine having something like that be literally all over the world. That just blows my mind. And I'm sure for you, especially when you found out where all these shirts were going and things like that, it was just a very eye-opening experience. And it also showed you just how good your artwork is too, which it's amazing, by the way. I've had a pleasure of seeing and going through a lot of your pieces, and you do a fantastic job with that, and rightfully so. It should be all over the world. Absolutely. You talk about DIC Animation. Tell us about how you got involved with them, and how you how they came to find you, or if you came to find them, and go from there. How did you get involved in all that good stuff with DIC Animation?
Well, I went to CSUN, and all my friends were, art majors and ID majors. So, so my best friend Marley Marafino, we met when we were 17 in the painting class or whatever. She had all these friends, and then we all became friends, and we had parties every week, like theme parties, art parties, So, it was always outrageous, and people would make these outrageous costumes, and the guy that would have like the big, huge parties was named Tony Levine, and he invented Crush Kitty. And I know you don't know who that is, but back in the 80s, it was the most amazing sellout thing. It was the Kilbron kind of looking cat, which I don't know if you remember, it was an orange and black striped cat.
Mm-hmm.
And he had, and then he made it so that, you close your trunk and the cat would be his back end would be halfway out of the car, So anyways, he just, he was just like this crazy guy, and he got a job with Alchemy 2, which is the Teddy Ruxpin company, where we did the whole Teddy Ruxpin stories. We built Teddy, we designed Teddy, we clothed Teddy, when Teddy came to the hospital, when Teddy broke, Teddy came back to Alchemy 2, and we'd work him and then send him back with a little hospital gown, to the kid. And I was working on the books, illustrating the books. And then one day, something horrible happened, and our whole company went under. And because of laser tag, that little boy was killed in Echo Park by a cop by accident. Laser tag looks like a gun, and the kid was just playing in the park there, and somebody said, "Hey, there's somebody in the park with a gun," and they said, "Put down your gun," and he's like, "Oh my God, there's somebody in the park with a gun," and it was him, and they shot him. And so our company Worlds of Wonder was part of the whole, the whole Atari thing, and we were all like part of the same company. I was just an offshoot company, and so we all basically got laid off because our company went, they closed it because you know how it goes.
Yeah.
So anyways, all my friends, but the guy that was firing us, Russell, every day he would come in and say, he'd bring you in, and he'd say, I said, "Am I fired? Are you firing me? Are you serious?" And he goes, and I says, "How come you haven't fired all these other people? How come I'm the first to go?" And he goes, "'Cause Rivka, come on, really? You can make a living being an artist. These people aren't, you can easily get back into making money somewhere, some other way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I choose you because I know that you're a leader." So he fired me because I was a leader. And, and so all my so all my friends that were working at Alchemy 2 for Teddy, they came from DIC. They came from Disney. They were headhunted. So when the show ended or the books ended, they all went back to DIC and Disney and stuff. And so they just called me and said, "Hey, Rivka, do you want to get a job in animation?" I'm like, "I'm not an animator. Are you serious?" And they're like, "Oh, really? You totally can fit in. There's all these different jobs, and we have a job for you." So that's kind of how I got in. And the way I got into Alchemy 2 was my friend Tony from Crush Kitty. He was working there, and they needed another colorist, and that's my major in college. I was a color major. So
okay.
they needed, yeah, I was the only color major in the history of CSUN. I had to make my own major up because they didn't have my major. And
Oh, wow.
I didn't want to do the regular stuff because I already, by the time I got to college, I was already doing like way past college work. So I wanted to work with improving my color on material. So my thesis was doing this book and using all sorts of different fibers and using these dyes, whatever. But anyways, my friend said, you know, Tony said, there's this place for this opportunity for you to work in this company. So I met Dave High, was my very first job, my first boss that I worked for when I started working for the man. And I was always an independent kind of contractor.
Right.
Anyways, I said, I have nothing to show you. All I have to show you is my portfolio of my artwork on t-shirts. And he's like, he hired me right away. He said,
wow.
Wow.
So that's kind of how I got it. That's how I got in from a friend who suggested me, because, you know, back then you could have friends and get into the industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like now. It's so different now. And then, so then when I got, and then Dave High moved over to DIC and he started working for them. And the next thing I know, I was working for DIC. And my first boss was David Carroll, and he hired me on Cops.
The story is just getting better and better.
I love this. This is fantastic.
Yeah.
Right?
So Dave High, my boss, David Carroll, he ended up working at DreamWorks, and then eventually, you know, he's the head of, he worked on all those DreamWorks films.
Animation, yeah.
He was in color, head of color there. So when you see dust behind the whatever of a cart, when you're watching like Prince of Egypt, he was the head dude behind there saying, okay,
Oh,
Lee,
that's
I want
cool.
you to make dust. I want you to make the light coming through the dust. So they were they were like an original company working in Simi Valley, working on all that like new stuff. Oh my God, it's like so new.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But anyways, I kind of lost my train of thought.
It's okay. It happens.
No, it's amazing. You have so much. You have so much history and so much background and so many experiences. Yeah. It's great how it's just one project or one job or one experience that led right into another, right into another. And I've always found that amazing how just, you know, speaking to friends or just speaking to, you know, your associates can lead to another opportunity. So it doesn't hurt to just, hey, you know what, I've been doing this. Oh yeah, I got a friend that does this, or I know somebody that can, you know, help you out with that. Just like how you did with the t-shirts. That was amazing how someone took you under their wing and said, I'm going to show you the ropes. I will teach you the secrets here so that you can continue my work. That was amazing. To me, it's like, that's cool, man. Got to be at the right place, know the right people, and you know what?
Well,
sometimes.
Yeah, but those were just my jobs. My real job is being an artist. So like, you know, I mean, I'm a graffiti artist. I like was out there before Keith Haring was even showing on the, you know.
The graffiti artist. That's crazy because, you know, the South, I mean, over here in Southern California, you see it everywhere.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's everywhere. And I remember when I was about 12, 13, 14, I heard for the first time graffiti artist. And I remember thinking to myself, really? Because, you know, people see graffiti as a very negative term. And for someone to say, hey, that's a work of art, and actually use that style to create art was amazing. We even had a graffiti artist create our high school logo. I went to Fremont High School in South Los Angeles. And they had the Pathfinders logo created in the graffiti art styles thing to, I guess, showcase that type of art. So I'm very curious to see and know how you came into the picture as a graffiti artist.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one day I lived in Thousand Oaks. There was when I was growing up there, it was 1960 and President John F. Kennedy was president, and we hadn't gone to Vietnam yet or anything like that. So we were just this rural town that had 2,000 people, and we lived in the middle of nowhere. And the sheep herders basically basically ran the town. It was sort of
so much different in Thousand Oaks now, huh?
Oh yeah, I go back. I'm like, oh my God, my neighborhood. It's like a million people. There's a stoplight every 5 feet on Thousand Oaks Boulevard. When I was growing up, there was a stoplight at Moore Park and Thousand Oaks Boulevard. That was it.
That was pretty much it. Yeah.
Nothing else. Dupar's was the big restaurant, and we had it was just like that. We had Jungle Land, and Jungle Land was a place where the movie star animals lived. So we had like Leo the lion and all the chimps and all the camels and all the stuff for the movies.
Yeah,
that was a lot. So, and that's where I had my birthday when I was 7. I had for my birthday there.
That's a pretty cool birthday for a 7-year-old.
I'm telling you, man, this story's getting better and better. So I'm sorry for sidetracking the conversation. So go ahead and continue with the graffiti artist and how that came to be, Rivka.
Yeah.
Okay, so one day the freeway came through Thousand Oaks, and it came in like when I was like 10 years old, and then they wanted to do an offshoot freeway out into Simi Valley, which is where, so there became a bridge, so, and when they were carving away the road and everything to make this bridge, there was, that rock that's like chalk. Anyways, there was a lot of that chalk rock all over. So we would go and play under the freeway and this freeway bridge thing in my neighborhood. And we would take chalk rock and we would just totally graffiti, our artwork. I don't know, I didn't call it graffiti. I called it mural painting or whatever. So I started, but I was doing it I was defacing public property apparently, but you could erase it with a hose. Yeah. I never really thought much of it because we all used chalk rock to do hopscotch and everything. So it was like a thing back then.
It's something that doesn't really come to mind that it's destructive, Yeah.
Yeah, and so then, I got introduced, I've always been a mural painter. I painted murals all over the San Fernando Valley in LA and up here. And so I paint murals, but I used to work, you don't remember, but there was a thing called busing. And that's when they took the kids from East LA and they brought them into the San Fernando Valley. And then the kids from the San Fernando Valley went to East LA so we could have like a cross-cultural community, in education. And that was going on in the 80s, the late 80s. And so I was I was a busing teacher, I guess you want to say, because all of my kids were from East LA. And they were right out of El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico. I had kids that didn't speak any, I had a class of 45 and like half of them didn't speak English, but thank goodness I was an art teacher because you really don't need to speak much. All you have to know is the colors, and I learned the colors real quickly. And but anyways, and so I never realized how gangstery it was back then. But the gangs came from East LA into my classroom, and I had no idea because I love all my kids. They didn't have a lot of money. So instead of getting a lab fee and trying to get money out of these kids, I just went out because I had enough money. I bought like $3,000 worth of supplies and gave every kid their own pencil kits and their own books and everything so they could get started. And lots of things happened. I found out that my kids were all packing like real early on when, this incident happened in my classroom. I was taking all, and anyways, this whole gang thing happened and this little boy got ganged up on, and all the other kids were encircling him, and I'm like, hey, and they had their guns out and their knives out, and I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing, man? And they're like, I said, put down your knives, put down your guns. What are you doing? Bring those to class. And they're like, bro, Miz Rivka, this guy called you a blanking bitch, whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I grew up in that area in the late 80s, early 90s, and that was not an uncommon scene. So yeah, I know exactly what you went through, and I'm glad to hear that the students were behind you, like they had your back, because there was other instances where they were not. So
I broke into the circle and I was like, and then I was like, what are you guys doing? So I was in the middle and there was guns all around me, but it didn't, but it didn't scare me because like, shoot, I'm from Thousand Oaks. Everybody has a gun. But, Wild West out there.
we're a different breed, Brian. We're a different breed.
Obviously. What am I missing over there? Right? Okay. What am I missing out on?
Yeah. So anyways, it really didn't scare me or bother me or anything like that because I knew my kids totally adored me and loved me, and so they were protecting me from this boy that was saying mean things about me. And I'm like, tell the little boy, hey, what's going on? And he goes, hey, he said, he told me I had to get out of that chair. And I go, well, you need to get out of that chair because he's the head of the blood. And then I have the head of the Crips are over on this side of the classroom, and you cannot sit in the head chairs. That's just pretty much common knowledge. You don't mess around. And so then.
So you were like the godmother of the game.
So then I says, you can't be sitting in his chair. And he goes, there's no assigned seating. I'm like, I know there's no assigned seating, but as of today, there is assigned seating. And you've been sitting in this chair for the whole semester. And you got to go sit back there or get out of my classroom. So then he ran out of class. And I ran to the door and I'm like, and don't come back, But, oh boy, that was a bad thing. The principal told me I wasn't allowed to say that.
I'm telling you,
that was just one day. But anyways,
wow.
So the guy that was protecting me, Miz Rivka, I'd be better than nothing. And say, he's like, he says, check out my latest piece. He would come in, I'm not going to say his name because, I don't want to.
Yeah.
At that time we had Polaroids. And so you could take an instant picture. Mm-hmm. So he would be bringing in his Polaroids and showing me his latest piece that he did on a bridge or whatever. Nice. And I'm like, wow, these are amazing. Doesn't it bother you that you come in, it's on the wall, and then they had this big, huge like graffiti cleanup thing, back in those days where they took that whatever paint that they recycled and then painted everything over the next day. So anyways, I said, doesn't it make you feel sad that you do these beautiful pieces and they're gone the next day? And he goes, yeah, it is kind of depressing. And I kind of relate to it, Mm-hmm. And then I says, you should get on canvas. So this classroom had this like back room, and I says, you should start spraying on canvas and then whatever, go from there. So I set him up, I showed him how to stretch canvases, I got him all prepared, and then he was back there and I bought him all the spray paint, and he was back there with no ventilation, and all the kids were in the classroom and like right there, and he's spraying away, and it's like, oh, the smell of spray paint is like so wonderful to me. So anyways, and all the kids were like, wow, I can't believe he's doing this amazing work, and so anyways, if OSHA had come into my classroom, I would have been like totally like shut down. But back then you could get away with pretty much anything. They didn't even want to show up in the classroom, let me tell you. So anyways, it was a rough place. But then the Pasadena College of Design, like the most prestigious art school in all of California, contacted my student and gave him a full scholarship. So he went from being like the head of a gang and getting in some street trouble, not trouble, but, getting in, it's blood in, blood out. But anyways.
You know what, Rivka, I'm going to stop you for just a quick second. You are like the Jaime Escalante of art. That's what it sounds like to me. You had some troubled kids and you gave them an outlet, and look what's going on, man. It's amazing. I love it, man. I love it.
I do too.
I love it.
I still am looking forward to that student friending me on Facebook. But I don't know if he ever will.
Right. Man, that's so
but,
man, that's so incredible.
Right.
People friend me and they're my students since I've been teaching for so long, kids that where like they come out of the woodworks and like, oh my gosh, Ms. Rivka, you changed my whole life perspective, and they write me these novels, and I'm like, wow, I didn't really know that I made such a difference. I was such a, I was Ms. Bitchka in school. It's like if you don't have a work, I really don't want to even see it. You can show it to me, but you're not going to turn it in because I don't even want to look at it. I've been looking at, I want to only look at good art, so I pushed my kids.
No,
so anyways, yeah. so that's how I kind of got involved with like the East LA kind of kids and learning about the graffiti. And then and so I had this guy that I could look up to, this boy in my class. He was so good. So, I kept practicing and practicing and practicing. And then I got hired doing my graffiti work. So, after a while, I was paid for it instead of,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I have made a pact with myself that I will never do, well, I probably will never do illegal graffiti ever again after the last time I did it. But it's invigorating. It's like rock climbing. You're at the top of the rock and it's like you're gonna die maybe because you're. So same thing with graffiti. It's like this really like charge that you're gonna create this amazing piece for people to wake up and see. And it's like free, And so that was going on in Brooklyn back in the day when they were burning down all the buildings to try to get the insurance money. And so graffiti artists just had a heyday, back down there and stuff like that. And that's when Keith Haring started showing up in Samo, who was John Michel Basque. And so Samo was doing the East Coast and the West Coast. And then Haring and I were he was on opposite coast, but he was an art teacher. I was an art teacher. We're both graffiti artists. And then we both had ended up in Tokyo at the same time.
Nice.
I was doing my work and he was doing his work out in Tokyo in '83. And so we always kept missing each other, but we always knew who each other was, because of our perspective things that we did.
It's amazing how things work out. I'm blown away by it, I really am. How, again, just leads into one thing to another, and then it just creates this path for you that's so full of life experiences that are fulfilling, That's so amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I want to touch on
Go ahead.
I want to touch on the when people really discovered you was recently back in February. You had all these people coming to you when you made that post on Facebook. And then you had all these, like you said, 100,000 likes on there and things like that. And people see you in the Mario suit that you're wearing right now, which is fantastic. I want to know, did you before you worked on the animated Mario show, what was your knowledge of Mario before you did that? Had you ever played any of the games before then? And then after the show and doing this post, you said that you've had people like sending you letters and things like that. What are some of the interactions you've had recently with those people since, and how has it touched your life or impacted your life now having all of these people that you didn't know
coming out,
reaching out to you and all that? What's that? How's that been an impact for you too, as well?
Okay, so the first question you asked is, how much did I know about Mario before I started working on Mario? And basically, I didn't even know who he was. The last time I played a video game, the last time I played a video game before the Mario thing, I was playing Pong, and it was at one of my students' houses when I was teaching, private art lessons, and he had this machine, and you push the thing, and then ding, ding, and I'm like, oh, this is like way too much for me. I can't do this joystick thing. And then, I tried to play later on in life in 2006. I tried to play Grand Theft Auto, but I just didn't have.
Oh, wow.
That's a big jump from Pong to Grand Theft Auto, right?
Yeah.
But that was my second video game I ever played. And then Grand Theft Auto was so amazing that I brought it into my classroom and I forced my kids to play it. It was like, my kid said, oh wait, I said, I wish I had Grand Theft Auto. I can't believe it. I'm playing this game where it's like in 3D Studio Max and you can move it all around and it's like exactly what we're learning. I wish that I could have the game. And my kid goes, one of my kids like, hey, I have an Xbox or whatever it is. And then he hooked it up to my TV. I'm like, okay, every one of my students, you have to have 15 minutes on playing this game to get the credit, the 10 points or whatever.
Wow.
Participation. So, but now Grand Theft Auto is very like violent and stuff. But back in the day, it was, I don't know. It was
still at the beginning before it got to where it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I played that game in Pomona. That's where I got to play that game, down in Pomona.
Oh, wow.
So anyways, when this whole Mario thing like erupted on Facebook, you know, I'm already kind of a famous artist, so I really wasn't thinking nothing. I was just roaming around on Facebook, and I love that.
Yeah.
I love that page. It's so funny, the things people find. Anyways, people were like pouring out their life story. Like I had a man in Australia, and now he's my total friend. But I mean, all these people from all over the world, not just the United States. I have Facebook friends now from every walk of life, every religion, every country, every belief system, every kind of person that could be possibly imagined, every just everything that can be different about a human being are my friends now, not just my local family. And so I try to I try to follow all of my friends on Facebook. And I've been watching one of my girls she's 2 months pregnant, and she's talking about her pregnancy, so I get to go through the whole pregnancy with her. And I didn't even know who she was in February. On January 31st, I had no idea who she was. So I'm making these friends, this tattoo guy, and just makes these amazing, incredible whole kind of tattoos, and all these crazy, you know, tattoos that are like from the comic books, and to just average people that just wanted to start following me. So anyways, it was overwhelming how many stories came out that they said that Mario, you saved my life. If my parents were going through a divorce or whatever it is, horrible things were happening in my life, and so I would just go in my room and I would just plug into Mario, and you know, and that's what helped me get through my childhood. And I was like, oh my God, it's like I didn't even have any idea. So so I love all of my new Facebook friends because it makes my feed very interesting. And I try to have contact. I don't just put a like or something. If it really touches me, I like to respond. And so I've been really blessed with, you know, that. And then from that Facebook post, I got interviewed for the most popular unusual things ever purchased at a thrift shop, and there was 40 of them, and I was on second on the list, or you know, my picture was, and it was such a terrible picture that day. I wasn't feeling really good. I had just driven like 400 miles, and you know, here we are at thrift shop, and I'm starving, and I'm looking terrible, and I'm wearing so anyways, it's like amazing, you know, like how that day changed my whole way my life moved.
Yeah.
And now, and then there was a lot of people going, can you draw Mario for me? I'm like, oh my God, there's like 40 people that want me. I have paintings to paint. I don't have time for this Mario stuff. And then I thought, okay, I'm gonna do it. So I drew Mario, but instead of drawing Mario the original way that he was drawn back in the 80s, I thought I'm gonna pump him up. I'm gonna make it more like modern. And so I modernized the line quality. I modernized how well he was drawn, because he was kind of poorly drawn in the game. He's just like a little pixel guy. And remember, when I was animating Mario, we were so cheap back then that we were doing 6 frames per second. So it was very digitized, you know. We just wanted to get it in and out. But I never got to work on a 24 frame in my history, which would be like, yeah, because I was doing my own thing while that was going on, but I did get to work with all the famous, you know, Disney people like Annie Gunther, the very first woman ever to work at Disney. She sat right next to me while I was working. So, and she would tell me these stories like those old ugly 12 men, you know, they would say, he says, she goes, I don't even know why they made children's films. They were all like totally hated kids. And I mean, we're like, I'm like, what? And then, you know, it was like just disrupted my like beingness. Like, what? They didn't like children? Because when I was working at DIC, you know, because it was, well, I don't want to get off this subject, but so you know, I started drawing Mario, and then I started making him into these little cells, you know.
Oh, nice! Look at that.
So anyways, you know, this is the original page. That's the original DIC thing in my book. Wow. And then I redid it, and then I started painting them, you know. And so now everybody wants me to paint more Super Mario Brothers things, so I'm going to do a second series eventually when I have time.
That's so cool.
My favorite show is obviously this show. I love
Slimer.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. I was gonna bring that. So you did Slimer in the Real Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
That was one of
That's
my
another one right there. Yeah.
growing up as a kid. Tell us about your work on the Ghostbusters, the Real Ghostbusters.
Okay, well, this was the Ghostbuster palette.
Look at that.
And also the Mario palette. It's called the DIC palette.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to, I had to make my keys, and each. So I was the palette maker.
Okay.
And so for like Mighty Mouse, I made this palette. It's a different kind of a look. I got to, make a whole new palette with cartoon color.
Mm-hmm.
So I chose my palette, and Mighty Mouse, he wanted to keep it really, minimal, because that's John Chris Belushi. That was my boss. He did Spumco. He invented Spumco, Ren and Stimpy.
Oh,
nice.
Getting better and better. I'm telling you, Rivka knows everybody.
That's amazing.
He was my boss until he got fired. He let something slide. Animators. You come in to DIC every morning, and I was on whatever Ghostbusters, and I'd go into my room, with all the other Ghostbuster artists, and we used the copy machine a lot because we painted on cells, we Xeroxed everything. Everybody got their own. I feel so bad for the trees. At that point, I was feeling really guilty because I'm like a conservationist, or not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what I am, but I love Mother Earth. And I'm like, every single person in this entire room, and there's like 12 of us or something, we get this big wad of paper, this big, we could just, look through the paper, and we can have a central one and look through that scene. Why do we have to waste all this paper? So I was like, I like the idea of having things generated on the computer now.
Yeah.
So there's not so much paper waste, but we wasted so much paper, and you have to paint those cells. And those cells were painted in Japan, China, Korea, Mexico, and Taiwan, and we take those cells back. So for every 1 minute of animation, there's 1,442 cells for each minute. So all that plastic was going into the bins, and I'm like, oh my God, this plastic.
Yeah.
And so I was pulling out animation cells from all these shows, and I know I'm going to get in trouble if anybody knows, but it doesn't matter anymore. It's all hearsay for me. But because I was friends with all my friends from Alchemy too, they were all up on the 6th floor, was where they did the main production. We were in production on the 5th floor, and on the 6th floor they were like directing the whole thing. So that's where Michael Maliani and all the big bosses and where they would design shows. And then and so my friend Alan Conley and my friend Lee Harmon were the heads of color there, and then they would bring the show back. They would bring it down to me, and so I would be responsible for handling my show after that original thing. So anyways, on Ghostbusters, I had like thousands of cells, and during my hiatus between Cops and Ghostbusters, I was a teacher, so I would go into these classrooms and teach art, and down in Simi Valley, and because why not? I had time, and I made a lot of, I thought I was making a lot of money. I mean, they were paying me so much money, it was embarrassing. At least for me, I thought that seemed like a lot of money. And then I come to find out that the guys on the other side of my show and working on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they're guys, and they're all doing the same work as me, but they're making 3 times the amount of money. And that's when I realized, hey, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Why am I getting paid less for doing the same thing? And so that's when I realized that women don't get paid as much as men. But I was just really glad to be a woman in animation during that time when like no women were there. I was cut.
Yeah.
And then of course DIC worked us like dogs. We all had our, we all slept under our tables because by the time it got to color and stuff like that, we would be the last one before we'd go over to Japan or wherever, Korea, for I think Super Mario was done in Korea. But anyways, I can't be honest about that. But so so anyways, we lived, slept, and drinked to be a wrist. Basically, we called ourselves wrists because that's all we were. Because once we left, some other wrist would take our place.
Yeah.
But so while I was on hiatus, I got all these cells and I was teaching art, and I said to the kids in 4th grade, I'm like, hey, I got all these animation cells. I'm gonna, I'm gonna give you each one. So I gave them a cell, and it's like, you save those cells, and eventually one day when you get old enough to go to college, you're gonna be able to pay for your college career on this cell. So I gave out thousands of dollars of things to help kids get an education. That's how I see it.
No, yeah,
So
definitely.
so then I would arrange each year. I would arrange for my classes to take a tour through DIC, and so
Wow.
like I was working on Ghostbusters, sitting at my desk, and all of a sudden the back door would open, and 40 kids would come through, and looking at all the things, and looking at everything, and they're overwhelmed, and then they see me, Miss Rivka, Miss Rivka, Miss Rivka. They're like 10 years old, and they're in stardom at the studios in LA or whatever. They took this big field trip to get there, and so they would all be whispering, "Hi, Miss Rivka, hi, Miss Rivka." And so they would pass my desk and walk out the room, and everybody in the room was like, "Rivka, what are you doing on your hiatus?" I'm like, "Well, apparently I'm having a lot more fun than you are, because I have all these little kids that think I'm some sort of an amazing person."
Well, that's because you are an amazing person. I mean, you absolutely are, though.
So
yeah, I mean, you're helping out kids, man. That's big. Big.
It was. I love being able to be one of the people in the world that promote positivity in life instead of all this negative BS that's going on.
Yes.
That's my opinion.
No, we completely agree. We want to be positive, and we've been through so much crap this year that it's just ridiculous. And we love to hear stories of bringing people up, giving opportunities, helping someone else out. I mean, these are things that we need to hear more of. Simple as that. We don't hear much of that in the news. We just don't. I mean, there's a story here and there, but I mean, I'm going to speak from experience just for a quick second. Teachers are amazing. They touch so many lives, and they will shape the life. They will change the path of someone as they grow up. And a trip to DIC can change someone's perspective and lead them down the path of animation, lead them down a path of art, take them off the streets and give them a way to better themselves. Yeah. That's amazing to me. That's why I'm like, oh, Jaime Escalante of art, because you stand deliver the same type of deal. You take these guys off the street and give them a path to better themselves. And I absolutely love it. I mean, I have huge respect for the teachers that pocket out of their own pocket to help the students, because at the end of the day, that's the future. That's where we need. And that's why as I keep saying, this story gets better and better and better, and it's amazing, Rivka. It's amazing work.
Yeah, we absolutely love on the show having people come on here. We've had so many different people come on to this show. We had another artist named Paul Niemeyer, and he just like you, Rivka, he shared with us his experiences as well, and he didn't even realize that he had a big impact on so many people. And I know you have realized that even before the Facebook thing. You were a very well-known artist already, and it's just great to have even more people discover you, and then not just see you as the person that made the Mario show, when they were younger, but they can also go through your whole entire portfolio, if you will, and see your other art as well. I know you were on Facebook Live on your almost your birthday, last week, and
yes, on your anniversary.
Yeah, that was my anniversary, and you were doing a painting of a couple dogs, and I saw the.
That's right.
So I mean, I've seen some of your other work, and that's just amazing to me. You've had a very full life, and it's not over yet. You still got more things to do. I'm sure. And I want to talk. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to tell you one story about Ghostbusters.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So my art director was Art Vitello, and I know that you guys are really young, but he did the 12 years of working on Pink. He was the head of Pink Panther, so he was the art director on Pink Panther.
Oh, wow.
Anyways, you know, I knew that. Everybody knew that. It's just like, okay, that's really great. You know, we have an original man, Art Vitello. What the hell? So, and I got this great palette going on, and I was working on cops, and we always had to do cop things, you know, like dark gray and a lot of pink. For some reason, my boss loved pink. There was still a lot of sexism in the way we had to paint the women and stuff like that, the girls. So anyways, there was a lot of pink and gray and those kind of colors in my palette. But so I had just assumed going on to my next show that I was going to be using kind of the same palette, but I didn't really understand. So after I did my first show and all the animators got around my desk, because I got the biggest desk, and they put all their work there, all the paintings, all the drawings, all the everything.
Awesome.
And then Art came in and started, you know, like going, you know, okay, I really like this, we need to change this, you know, the stuff that art directors do in a big group. And then he's looking at my colors, because I have to color my pieces to go so that on the background, I can't color until the background is done, because I don't know what's on the background, so I have to work my colors around the background, and each scene is different. So, you know, I kind of have to second guess things a little bit, but I'm right there with the artist, so it didn't really, it's okay. And we all read the same, you know, storyboards. But he came in and he's looking at all my cells I haven't put it out for the show, and then he's like, pink, pink, I hate pink. You are never, never, never allowed to use pink. I'm like, oh my God, that's half my palette. It's like all these pinks, you know, look at my palette's half pink, you know. So anyways, I was like, oh gosh, okay, no pink. So, you know, I started doing everything no pink. And then later on in the show, there was this show where Seimer works for this millionaire lady in a big house, and she's got this long limo, and she's, you know, so I dress her up all in blue or whatever with her big boa, and then her limo, I did it all really cool, like leather and, you know, white, and making it really look nice. And so Art comes out and we're all doing our thing, and I'm showing him my stuff, everybody's showing stuff, and Art's like, you know, I think that you should make that limo hot pink. And I'm like,
wow.
So, you know, he was really, really funny to work with. And, you know, that was like the one show that I got to use pink in, and I was really excited about that. And then to talk about one thing that you were talking about, how you changed your life because you're a teacher. I was, I guess in 1993, or somewhere around that time, I was walking around the Oaks Mall. Don't ask me why. I was just walking around, and I never go there, but I was kind of walking around, and this boy that was all furry faced, you know, like you guys, back in the 90s. It was a little more fur because it was more popular. So anyways, and he's really tall, and he's like probably weighs 180 pounds. He was a man, and he walks up and he goes, "Excuse me, ma'am." And he's like wearing his guard. He was wearing all in guard, you know, like he was a guard for the mall cop. And so that was his other job. But anyways, he come up and he says, "Excuse me, ma'am, but you look a lot like a art teacher I had when I was in 7th grade. And I just was wondering maybe if you were Miz Rivka." I'm like, can't even believe it. You're way too old to be my student. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, no, I can have students that are 50 years old because I've been teaching for so long. And so then he says, "I just want you to know that you changed my life. If it wasn't for you, you know, you used to stay after school and you would let us do animation and do cells without having to do some, you know, the project. You would let us do things during lunch, and, you know, because I would always have art club." And then he said, "I ended up graduating from Cal Arts, and now I'm an animator. And it was because of you, because I was a troubled child." I'm like, "Hey, weren't you that guy that didn't turn in his final exam homework because the dog ate it?" And he's like, "Miss Rivka, the dog really did eat it." And I'm like, now I kind of believe you. But at that time, I didn't believe in him. I gave him a C-.
That is funny. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. You know, those little things like that, just, you don't really know the impact of that until that comes back years down the line. And then you're like, wow, you know, I really made the difference. The troubled child, troubled teen, you know, just you never know what's going on in someone's situation. And when they have an outlet such as art, that can just change the path to a more positive way, and in a positive way. And I've seen it firsthand. You know, I was right there as well. I was a troubled child, troubled teen, living in East Los Angeles, living in South Central Los Angeles. And I use music as my outlet. My music teacher, who, you know, I loved to death, was there during lunch, there after school, letting me play, teaching me things. And those are the type of things that you take with you for the rest of your life. So I'm glad that your students are coming back to show you that appreciation, you know, from all walks of life. And it's amazing to hear. I love it. And it's funny that the student called you Miss Rivka still, because there's a teacher that I run into as well. And I still, to this day, call her Miss Quesada. And she's even came back to me and she told me, Victor, we're adults now. You don't need to call me that. My name is, you know. And I'm like, I'm sorry. It's just that, you know, I have respect for you. And I've called you Miss Quesada, you know, since I was in school. And that's just how you are to me. You're Miss Quesada. I appreciate what you've done for me. And I respect that. And it's a little weird to go ahead and call a teacher by their first name. So,
well, it is really weird. And like when people call me Ms. Rivka, I know exactly where I know them from. You know, I told them, you may be in this class, but in my book, you're going to be in the alumni Ms. Rivka class. And so, you know, that's kind of, to me, it's sort of like a loving way to kids that they know they got in. They know me more than just Rivka. They know me as Ms. Rivka. I was in their face for 185 days telling them, do it better, do it better. If it doesn't hang in, if it's not gallery worth, just don't put it on my desk.
No, but those are the fond memories of students, you know, as much as to this day, you know, I'll get with my high school buddies and we'll talk about some of the teachers that we've had. And you know, some are not so fond, but the fond ones are the ones that we're like, yeah, man, have you kept in touch with Miss Quesada? I'm going to keep using her, for example. Oh, yeah, I have, you know, oh, she's on Facebook. Oh, you got to give me her information because, you know, I got to tell her how much she changed me because of this, this, and this. I'm like, dude, for sure, you got it. I'll give you the information. Now, and that's the kind of stuff that's amazing.
I want to be Ms. Casava's Facebook friend. Will you suggest it? She sounds really cool.
She's amazing. She's amazing. And just to give you a very brief story with her, she was my Spanish teacher, and it was her first year teaching high school Spanish. And you know, I'm a little bit of ashamed to say this. I am of Hispanic heritage, and I've lived in Los Angeles my whole life. And my Spanish is not that great. It's pretty horrible. So she helped me out with that. So, you know, again, a life changer, because I definitely needed to make sure I was able to speak serviceable Spanish, and she was always there for me to help me out. So she not only did that for me, she did that for many others. So, you know, first year teacher.
I go to Mexico as much as possible, so I have to know some Spanish, like, no, it's legal. I'm doing this legally. Or whatever. But because, you know, in when I fly into like Puerto Vallarta, in the back neighborhood, I mean the real neighborhood, the hood, you know, they don't have a lot of art, they have a lot of graffiti.
Yeah.
So I will go down to the neighborhood and I bring my paints and I just go from house to house and I ask them, do you want me to make this graffiti piece on your wall look beautiful? And so I take the original graffiti, whatever it was, because I don't want to get involved with any gang things. I take that gang thing and I get inspired from the tag, and I make these amazing murals for people down in Mexico from taggers. And the great thing about my murals in Mexico, they don't tag over my murals. So because I honor their tag.
No, that's a big sign of respect. I know that. That's a huge sign of respect when they don't, when they don't disrespect your work. So I'm really glad to hear that.
So before we go, one thing I definitely wanted to, we're all about whenever we have a guest on the show, we want to promote their upcoming work and their projects and things like that. And you had shared with me that you're in the process of writing a book called The Adventures of Miz Rivka, which I feel like we've already experienced quite a bit of that book already on the show. This is fantastic.
Oh, it's just a little bit.
We got the audio version of the book today.
I figured as much. But share with us how your progress on that book is going. If you have an idea of when we can expect to be able to get this book, and then any other projects that you have going on as well.
Well, the thing about writing is I have dyslexia, so I only write short stories. So and then because I was a teacher, you always have to say something, because I wrote the California State Standards for art, so you have to have the cultural and the historical part when you introduce something. So, my student, I always have a story for everything. So anyways, this kid comes up to me after school and he goes, "Ms. Rivka, you have a story for everything." And I'm like, "Yes, I do." And if I said, if I don't have a story, I'll make one up for you. But I have too many real stories that are so unbelievable that,
awesome.
I think I should write a book called The Adventures of Miz Rivka and make these short funny things. So, I started with the death of Michael Jackson. That was my first story. And, he was my friend, and I was just devastated. I was driving home from work, and I was listening to Mexican radio, and they said, Michael Jackson, muerte. And I'm like, what? Did I hear that? And then I turned it to an English station, and I heard that he had died. And then that's how my book started. And I kept writing and writing, and I have a bunch of stories. But the only thing is that I have a life that I want to live. And if I sat down and write my stories down, then I wouldn't have time to do what I have to do. There's so many people that want so much stuff from me. I have to divide my time. So I write down this in my book. I have this page in one of my books of every story that I'm going to try to write, because my father was an interesting person, and he's some of my stories. He's a man all of his own thing. So anyways, and my dad was writing a book called The Adventures of a Country Doctor. So I thought, I'm going to write a story about the adventures of Miz Rivka. And I was just going to kind of keep it with my teaching, but then it ended up starting. My life is so amazing. I have so many amazing stories that I don't know that they're amazing, because people go, "Oh my God, I can't believe it." And I'm like, well, I guess, the book isn't going to be coming out anytime soon, but I will send you, if you would like, one of my stories that was inspired by Pablo Picasso's wife, surviving Picasso. So I wrote a story because I had a bit of a thing about that incident. So I'll send you that.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you can't put it on.
No,
it's your personal thing.
We don't do that. Yeah.
But that one, it was my longest story. It was 13 chapters long, and I really could write a whole book about it, but I wanted to move forward because I like to keep things upbeat and positive. So I always try to find the positive things. And people always say, the worst thing could be happening, this terrible thing, and then you turn around and turn it into hey, but there's this positive side about it. So
yeah, I strongly believe that there's a yin and yang with situations, and there's going to be a negative side, and there's always a positive, even if it's small. There's always a positive outlook with the situation, event, or whatever may come of it. But speaking about you not even realizing how amazing your life has been until someone tells you nonchalantly, you bring up Michael Jackson was my friend, and it's like, what? You had a personal connection.
I was in that circle, because my friends from college just happened to know Muhammad, and so I got to be with Muhammad, and then I got to meet Michael, but because Muhammad's wife was friends with Michael, but then Michael was also part of my life because, we had he would come to, he was the most amazing guy, you guys. I know that he's got a lot of bad whatever, but we had this, my dad had a nurse, and in her office, her daughter was dying of cancer, and she was only 7, and she was her last wish was to meet Michael Jackson. So, you know, I got in touch with Michael. My mom got him to go to the hospital, and he spent the entire day by her bedside talking about unicorns and rainbows or whatever he was talking about with her. And, you know, he's just like the most sensitive, whatever, human being. And the thing about Michael is like, it was like God, the universe needed Michael up there because something big is happening. And Michael is going to be the head of the choir or something. But because of my career, I mean, I've gotten to meet people like Cher and Chevy Chase and all these like, and then all these famous animators and all these famous artists. I got to meet Pablo Picasso, and I got to meet Rauschenberg and Jim Dine and all these really, really famous people, because in my school at CSUN at the time, my teachers were at the age where they knew those guys. They worked with them. You know, they were working side by side with them. So we would get to go to their studios and meet them, and down in Venice and all those places down there, because LA has a lot of artists. So that's why I'm so fortunate to, you know all these famous people. But you know what? Just like anybody else, Muhammad puts his pants on one leg at a time, and so did Michael. Well, maybe Michael jumped into
him, I'm pretty sure.
but I like to, and then, you know, of course, I worked at very famous schools where I got to work with the Brat Pack, you know, all those famous movie stars over at Viewpoint School in Calabasas. So I had a lot of really, well, you know, like Tom Selleck was one of my parents, you know, so I had to have parent conferences with like these movie stars that were, you know, in all these films. And I was saying, you know what, I want to have like a big party where all the parents and all the kids come to my house, and, you know, we have a big party, because this is really an exciting year for me, because first time I've taught first grade, because I was teaching first grade. But, you know, anyways, and then the other teacher goes, Rivka, you know, I've been to your house, and, you know, it's a really cool house, but you don't want these people come into your house. They're like really like whatever. She was like impressed with them or something. And I was like, so if you're famous, then you can't come to my party? Is that what you say? Like,
that is so funny.
She didn't know anything about my background. So, I mean, I feel comfortable around the most honorary gangster, and I feel the most comfortable around the most famous person. It doesn't mean anything to me. And my favorite thing to do, I moved to the mountains to be with my brother, but also to get away from like being recognized on the street. And so I just wanted to get away. So I came up to the mountains here in Yosemite, and it was you know, a really great move for me to come here. But then when I went on, you know, when I go to the store at Vaughn's or wherever I go, I don't mean to push Vaughn's, but that's our store up here. And there's these little old ladies, because it's like an old town. So these little tiny men, they're all like crooked like this, and they're walking through groceries, and they can't reach that thing on the top. And I'm always right there. I'll get that for you, ma'am, here. Let me put it in your cart. And then they're like, you're so sweet. And I'm like, you're so beautiful. Oh my God, look at you. You're just like a shining star. And they're like these old wrinkly people, but I don't know, they are so cute and so adorable. And so, you know, I like to give like compliments to total strangers. That's like one of my favorite things to do, because everybody deserves to have it, to be like they're the most important person in the whole world. And so, you know, being on your show and having this podcast with you two nice boys, or, you know, men, I'm sorry, he still looks like voices right now. My kids are older than you. but I you know, my youngest son, he loves Super Mario Bros. And all those heroes and stuff like that. He's a little younger than you, but you still have that youthfulness about you. And I just love your generation, because your generation, I might have been some famous artist or worked on some famous thing or whatever it is that you see me as, but really, I'm depending on you guys and your work as a group of people your age to bring us into the age of the Jaguar, the age of consciousness, the age that you know, you don't have to go into a big studio lit with all these things. You can do it in your kitchen or your basement or wherever you're podcasting from, and you can make a living, and you don't have to get in your car and drive somewhere and put smoke into the air. So, you know, whatever. And so I love the way your generation is bringing us up into the 21st century. And I know it's a rough ride, but, you know, birth is very difficult. You know, getting through that birth canal, and then the guy slaps you on the bottom, you know, you're like, what? You know, so, you know, I know that birth is really hard, but, and I know that my generation, I know we didn't do very much for you guys, but we tried. But the people on the top are so wealthy that we couldn't get things through that we really wanted to. So we're depending on you guys and girls and every kind of walk of life, however you want to describe yourself. We're still all earthlings, and I really, really appreciate your generation bringing it fruition. But my generation, I just want you to know, my generation brought you guys really good music.
Definitely.
That it did. That it did.
Fact.
Yeah,
that is an absolute fact. Well, Rivka, Victor and I, we really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to be with us here on the show. You're just an incredibly beautiful person, inside and out. You have, I know you've got, we just got just a little taste, of what you've experienced in your life, and we'd love to have you back on the show later on at some point to go into more of your story and hear more about your work and things like that. And I'm sure you've been a blessing to so many people with your work, and have really touched their lives. And you know, I love, you know, we've been doing this show for a long time now. We've had several people tell us these same things of, you know, we're all about positivity here. We don't like to focus on the negative. We don't act like it doesn't exist, like you said earlier, but we're not ignorant to it. But we want to, you know, we're all about building up people. And, you know, I have this mantra of, you know, I don't want to be on the top by myself. I want to pull people up with me. Yes. And I know you're that way too. Absolutely. Can tell that for a fact, because you've been teaching students and trying to give them, you know, and help them open their gifts and expand their gifts just like you did. And I love that. I love hearing that. That's what we're all about here. Is enjoying other people's stories and the positivity and how they've touched other people's lives. And that's what we love doing here. That's what the show is all about. Is positivity
breeds positivity, man. That's just how it is. And we're trying to spread as much of it as possible. And I'm really happy to hear, you know, Rivka's doing it on her own too, you know, telling everybody looking great. Let's give a compliment here and there. I've done that a couple times too. I'm still not comfortable to do it every single day though, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. But it's a big plus. The world needs people like Rivka, a lot more people like that. And I'm glad to hear that at least we got a little taste of, you know, the inside of Rivka here and what she's done with her life. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And maybe I should do, you know, just sit down and write a short story about how I met Brian, how I met you guys.
That would be fantastic.
Let's do it. That'd be great.
Okay, well, I'll sit down and I'll write something. I'll hold on, because I'm older. I'm an older lady. You know, sometimes I forget. So I want to write it so that it's on my front. So
you got to do what you got to do. You know, I have a little notepad on my desk too. So.
Yeah, it's the sticky notes are the most important thing, but I don't have sticky notes. Yes. I have tape, and I use this is how sad I am. My notes for my class are all on, you know, recycled.
That's amazing. I love that. So that's cool. Yeah.
This is my teaching notes for my new class.
That is very, very creative. Well, Rivka, thank you so much again for being on our show. And I do want to say to the folks listening at home, if you're someone like Miss Rivka here who you know, wants to share with us your talents and your art. You know, art comes in many forms.
Oh yeah.
You know, pretty much just about anything can really be art these days, and I love that, and we love hearing that here on the show. So if you want to be on our show and you want to be our guest on here and you want to promote what you do and tell everybody your story and things like that, please let us know. You can leave a comment below. This will be on YouTube, so you guys can check this out. You guys are watching right now from YouTube. And then, of course, you guys can listen to our show on Spotify. We're on Spotify. We're on iTunes. We're on Google Music. We're on SoundCloud. So you have so many different options to listen to our show here. And next week is actually our 40th episode, believe it or not. So we're going to be celebrating that. We're going to have a couple of our old hosts. We're going to bring them back and
some of that Dragoncast family together.
See what they've been up to over the years, and we're excited to have them on the show and kind of relive some old Dragoncast memories here. And looking forward to having some other guests on as well. We're always planning. Victor and I are. Also, be sure to check out our Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/the Dragoncast, and you can help support our show that way. It starts as little as $1 a month. That's it. And we're looking at actually going and doing some conventions next year. Hopefully, once this whole situation going on gets a lot better, we'll be able to go into conventions and things like that. And I meant to ask you, Rivka, have you done any conventions before? Like, have you ever been to any cons and things like that and displayed your art? That would be a perfect place for you to showcase your art.
Well, I've only been to the music convention down in LA because my cousins are into, we have musicians, and so I do the music one. But I've never been to Comic-Con. I really want to experience it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if I showed up at Comic-Con, I would be overwhelmed with the amazing things that are going on right now in animation and comic books and just it's probably, it will bring me to tears. I probably couldn't have a booth, but I would. But if you have a booth, I'll sit at your booth and be a guest at your booth.
No, that'd be great.
Well, that's actually funny because
that's what we're planning.
We're planning. We are planning on so we're actually, Victor and I have been talking for a while. We're planning on, we want to that's the reason for the Patreon is the those of you that donate to the Patreon and you become a patron of our show, all of that money does not go into our pocket. It's actually to help make this podcast better. Victor and I are planning on going on the road next year, once again, all things considered, hopefully. And we want to do some shows in person, and we want to meet some of our fans.
That's right. And
we'd love to have guests like Miss Rivka over here on our show and sit with us at a booth. So maybe you'll see us at San Diego Comic-Con next year, and we'll
maybe that's the plan. That's the goal.
And there's a ton of other cons too, as well in California.
Yeah. Well, I think that San Diego one would be nice weather.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh my God, yes, absolutely.
And because it's so close to Hollywood, I'm sure there'll be some really good outfits.
Oh, definitely.
I've never been to California, so you guys have to show me around when I come. Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. We'll totally be your guides. I'll show you bridges you've never been to before.
Right.
Yes.
All of the
I love the bridges.
All of the hidden graffiti art that's littered throughout the city, man. It's amazing some of the stuff you'll find on walls and under bridges and all kinds of stuff. It's a very cultured location, and you'll find all kinds of stuff out here, man. You'll definitely enjoy it.
If you live in Fresno, I'm on the Fresno Art Walk, like the murals of Fresno, so you can go down there and see incredible graffiti. And my piece is the one that's on that thing, it happens to be at a shop, but the graffiti is alive and well here, and it's loved, it's respected by people who respect good art, but the only thing is, because it's in that realm of, hey, you did that at night, but in Fresno, you're allowed to. They let you do the buildings. They give you the building, and then you do what you want. So it's a really nice culture in Fresno. It's not a bunch of gangy things. It's more like taking to the next level. So we'll show you around.
Absolutely. I would love for you guys to be my tour guide coming there.
That'll be a plan. We got to do it.
I always wanted to go to the West Coast, man. I've been all over the East Coast over here, so I want to go to the West Coast.
We'll plan it once all this fire business is done and done with.
Oh man,
it's horrible right now, and then again, just everybody in the West Coast right now, up to Oregon, Washington, and throughout California, be safe.
Oh yeah.
Be smart.
Yeah.
Don't be out there if
Absolutely.
you don't need to be, because you know that air quality right now is just horrible. So please be safe, be smart, guys, and you know, just be careful, man.
Absolutely.
It's very,
We're definitely, our thoughts and prayers and hearts are with all those going through this terrible mess with the fires there in California, and I believe there's some in Oregon as well, so affecting them there. But once again, Ms. Rivka, thank you so much for sharing, you know, your story with us. Just a small part of your story, but still, you know, great nonetheless. And thank you to all of you who tuned in to watch this episode. If you're on YouTube or listen to it on Spotify, we definitely appreciate you. And until next time, guys, Victor and I will be signing off, and we will see you guys next week. Take it easy, guys.
Later, guys.
Bye. Thank you.